I am already feeling self-conscious that my roommates can hear what I'm saying. I want to try to run through the entire story of what happened to my foot, kind of just spitballing, without writing anything out, without having an outline, and basically walk you through what happened, what my recovery was like, and how I'm doing currently. This is likely going to be a long and slow video, but if you've found this video because you just broke your talus, you probably got plenty of time on your hands. The story begins right around the start of COVID. I was living with a really wonderful group of friends. YouTuber didn't quite qualify me as an essential worker, so I really didn't have much going on. And we just spent our time hanging out and cooking these fantastic dinners and yeah, probably drinking a bit. All that to say that I wasn't in great shape. I had probably gained weight, and I hadn't been climbing at all, which is normally a main source of exercise for me. The girls in our little COVID pod had just graduated college and were moving away, so we decided to go rock climbing as kind of a last hurrah. I don't have any footage of that day, but almost exactly 1 year after the accident, I returned to the spot where it happened.
Yeah, it's all good. Look at that.
Clean.
These are great.
Tell you what, it's early.
Big fan. Trailers.
The only choice.
Good.
This is definitely the spot. And I took a really sketchy whipper. I took a really sketchy fall, and I was fine. And I looked over to Davis, who was up there with me, and I said, I just took the sketchiest whipper I've ever taken. And I remember thinking, like, this is adversity, and I can overcome it. Like, I want to show my friends that I don't quit when I get scared, and I push on. And, because, like, that's what you're taught the mindset should be, you know? And what I should have done is, like, realized how unsafe I was in that position. But I don't know, inexperienced, I suppose. And then I tried it again, fell in the same place, and I don't know what happened. I got blasted into the rocks. The end of the route is there. I was trying to clip that bolt, and I fell onto that ledge. And that's what did it. Don't exactly remember like the instant that it happened, but yeah, just a big impact in my foot, and then I immediately shouted, I broke my ankle, lower me down. And I felt like we had made a bad COVID decision. Like, I felt like I was going to be taking up a bed in the hospital that could have been occupied by someone, you know, in need of assisted breathing apparatuses, and just knew it was not a good time to be going to the hospital. And I was kicking myself for being so stupid. And, you know, the ankle was also obviously incredibly upsetting, but I kind of thought it was going to be a 3-month thing. You know, I was like, okay, I broke my ankle. There goes the next 8 weeks for sure. You know, next 10 weeks, next 12 weeks. All right, so I just broke my foot. I think it's called the talar bone. Taylor. Apparently it's not a bone you want to break. Feel a little loopy. I'm on some painkillers. I got really, really lucky with the doctors I saw. Even at this first hospital, it was a super small hospital outside of Ohiopyle, but the doctor there, she recognized that this was potentially a more complicated break right away. Her advice was go to the UPMC Presby emergency room, because otherwise I was going to need to make an appointment with an orthopedic specialist, and that could take a few days. So she was like, she gave me some pain meds, and she said, your best bet is to go to the emergency room either tonight or tomorrow morning, and that'll get you into a specialist. Get to the UPMC emergency room, and Jewel drops me off, and she can't come in, right, because it's the middle of COVID. And there was one doctor, and this was like one of the first doctors I talked to, and he said, you'll be lucky if you can walk normally again, or something to that effect. You'll be lucky if you can walk again, you'll be lucky if you can walk normally again, you'll be lucky if you can walk without a limp again. Something that was kind of like very unnerving to hear that. I had broken bones in the past and fully recovered, you know, to at least 95, 99%. So that was kind of strange. They moved me up to like a more permanent hospital bed, and then I think that second or third day in the hospital is when I got the X-Fix.
Is it swollen more because of this now? Because of the rod placements?
It's swollen mostly because of just like the initial fracture.
Bloodiest pillow I've ever seen too.
That is a bloody pillow. All right, so I had my first surgery yesterday. They put pins in my foot to hold everything in place while the swelling goes down, and then once the swelling goes down, they'll open me up and put internal hardware into my bones so that the bone can heal properly. Okay, so an external fixator is basically a cast. It's basically like the best cast imaginable because you're so locked in place. It's literally drilled into your bones. These big metal pins, these rods, are drilled into your bones, and it holds your foot locked in place. So there's no movement whatsoever. And that was a big component of my recovery. It also kind of goes to show the severity of the break. I was to wear the external fixator for 2 or 3 weeks while the swelling went down. This period of time was frustrating because I had a bunch of metal rods in my leg, and also because I wasn't recovering yet, right? I still needed to have this big surgery where they were going to cut me open and put all these screws in my bones. So I wasn't really recovering. I was just kind of waiting for the swelling to go down so I could have this big invasive surgery. Got a Rubik's Cube.
QED.
Kendama for that bedside action.
That bedside Dama.
Husky.
What's up, Jib? What's up?
I also brought a light reading material.
Oh shit.
There we go. Leaving the hospital was scary, is always scary, you know. I have all this stuff in my leg, I'm in a lot of pain, and all of a sudden, you know, I go from having the care of this team of nurses to Davis and Dan, you know, at my little apartment, taking care of me in shifts, basically. We got a bedside commode at first, just because like our bathroom was super tight, and crutching into the bathroom with this thing on my leg was a pain in the ass and scary, and I could have fallen over. So I was peeing in bottles and shitting in plastic bags in the bedside commode, and my dear friends would empty my pee bottles and take out my poo bags. And also cook me every meal and make sure I was comfortable while also dealing with their own lives. They would basically trade off in shifts. I feel extremely lucky to have my friends around me who take ridiculously good care of me. I have somebody here constantly taking care of me. Yeah, I'm ready to get these damn rods out. T-minus 16 hours until the second surgery. I got a call where there had been some sort of mix-up and they had put me on like the wrong blood thinner, or they had prescribed too much blood thinner, and basically the surgery got pushed back a couple days, and I was so bloody sick of the X-Fix at this point. And when I found out the surgery had been pushed back 2 days, I think it was the first time that I cried. Jewel was there at this point, and yeah, I got the call that, you know, oh, we accidentally still have you on these blood thinners. You need to be off of the blood thinners for 48 hours before we do the surgery. So we're going to push your surgery back 2 days. You're not going to get the X-Fix off for another 2 days. And that just like broke me for some reason. Let's see. It's 4:40 a.m. It's the morning of the second surgery. I think Dan drove me to the hospital at like 5 a.m. And I was nervous, but I was excited to be rid of the X-Fix. I remember lying in like the waiting area, and I asked the doctor, what is the likelihood that I wake up just in a boot? And I talked to one of the residents, I think, and he said 95%. He said 95% you wake up and you don't have the X-Fix on, you're just in a boot, and you know, they've put screws in me. When I talked to the head guy, Dr. Tarkin, he was a little less certain. He said, we're gonna put screws in, we're gonna internally fix the ankle, they're gonna repair the bone as much as they can, and they're either gonna take the X-Fix off or they're gonna leave it on. He said he leans towards taking it off. Typically, he takes it off. So that felt less certain, but still had a lot of hope. You know, that was kind of, at this point, I just wanted these rods out of my leg. Okay, this is the first update post-second surgery. They took the external gear off and opened me up and put the screws in my ankle. However, it was, I guess, worse than they thought it was, or they didn't like how it looked. So once they put the screws into my ankle on the inside, they then reattached the external gear. So I thought I was getting the rods out, but I will have the rods in my leg for a few more weeks, whatever that means. I'm in the most pain that I've been in through this whole experience. I'm on the most drugs I've been on through this whole experience. And I guess I don't know, I feel okay. But it wasn't as crushing as the additional 2 days. It was almost like, well, I'm just in it now. You know, there's nothing, I just have to accept this. And there was, you know, something about 2 more days was so painful, but, you know, I ended up having the thing for, I think, another 3 or 4 weeks.
That little thing right up there, it oozes for about a day.
Okay. Yeah, so I found out that because the bone was so horribly, horribly broken, that they decided to leave the X-Fix on for an additional 2 to 4 weeks. They put, I think, 13 screws into my ankle. 4 of those were into my tibia, into the base of my tibia, and that was just to repair the bone that they had to cut to get to the talus. So to access the talus, they had to cut away a big chunk of my shin bone. And then the talus itself, I think, got 9 screws maybe. And it's not a big bone, you know? It's like maybe the size of an oddly shaped golf ball. The bone kind of shattered, you know, it turned to dust in some areas. It broke into over 1,000 pieces is what one of the surgeons told me. And they kind of took the pieces they took the biggest chunks and somehow screwed those chunks back together as best as they could. It felt like there's no way those stitches could hold because there was so much pressure, and I would constantly kind of check to make sure that like the stitches hadn't just burst.
Get in here, bud. Look at that. Oh yeah.
I can't believe this is my foot.
They went in. They did surgery.
At that point though, I was on the mend. You know, they had put the screws in the ankle. I still had the X-Fix on, but the next step was just to remove the X-Fix. So I was on an upward trajectory, which felt good. I just had to let my body heal. I continued eating really well. No sweets, no beer, no weed, no nothing. Not even coffee. Yeah, kind of just existed for 3 weeks on the couch.
Okay. F2. Ayo, pretty good.
Bam.
Bam. Little bit of Dean feedback,
That's pretty good.
but 649.
649.
Now I got to start doing 3 so I can juggle them at the end.
There you go. Whoa.
Watch the
Watch
pins.
the pins. Sleeping was really difficult because there were 2 rods coming out of my heel, so I couldn't really lie on one side or the other. I had to just sleep on my back, and I'm not a back sleeper, so that was a pain in the ass. We had to clean the pin sites twice a day with a cotton swab and alcohol. You know, pin care became part of our daily routine. My mom did eventually come visit, but we were worried that we were going to give her COVID or something. So, not a great time to have this going on. I remember my anxiety was pretty bad just because I wasn't moving and I wasn't able to kind of expel the energy that I had. Doing little workouts, like just doing like crunches or any sort of movement usually made me feel better. Eventually I started crab walking down the stairs, and we had a wheelchair, so I would go outside and Dan and Davis would push me around a little bit. I also wet the bed a couple of times towards the end of my recovery. I think that I got so used to peeing, just rolling over and peeing in a bottle, that my brain's ability to stop the pee when I'm not at the toilet was temporarily short-circuited. So a few weeks go by, and I'm ready to get the X-Fix removed. And this surgery aligned with Jules' return, which was huge. Dan and Davis had been taking care of me nonstop. 2 of our friends, Mitch and Jack, came out to take care of me for a week and kind of relieve them of their duties, so that was huge. My mom had come out, but Dan and Davis had taken kind of the brunt of the load. And Jewel was now returning to kind of finally relieve them of their duties. And also, you know, the hope was that I would really start improving now that I was getting the X-Fix off and getting into a boot. It's like Christmas morning.
Does this hurt?
No. Alright.
Want to lift it up?
Okay. Gonna slide it out.
Don't move it yet. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay. Look at that foot. I was still very unsure of how far my recovery would go. If I would be able to jog again, if I would be able to run around and play tennis and basketball again, if I would be able to walk around without serious difficulty again. You know, I really didn't know where my recovery was gonna fall, and the doctors don't really tell you. You know, they don't want to make any promises, and then if you fall short of that, then you're really disappointed and you're angry.
You're done.
All right.
Boop.
The leaning house. Basically, I started slowly adding weight to the ankle and walking around a little bit. Started physical therapy. Yeah, started to get better. You know, my foot certainly improved. There was a day kind of right when I had just started walking where we got some food and we were gonna go to this park. So we parked the car and I kind of really hobbled into the park. And we sat down and ate, and then it was time to go. And all of a sudden, I could not put any weight on my foot. And this was my very first encounter of arthritis. So I walked into the park, felt okay, sat down, the inflammation started to increase as I was sitting and eating, and then when I tried to walk back to the car, I was experiencing severe arthritis, right? Severe inflammation from the grinding of a seriously damaged joint. I had no idea it was arthritis. Continued to do physical therapy and continued to improve, and I would notice that when my ankle was loose, it would feel really good, and then after physical therapy, it would kind of lock back up again and be painful. I started to ride my bike pretty early on, and the motion of biking made my ankle feel fantastic. And some of like the biggest improvements I saw was after I was riding. So after 6 months of physical therapy, you know, I was still experiencing a lot of pain, and Dr. Tarkin basically said, what you're experiencing is arthritis. You probably don't need to do any more physical therapy. The physical therapy is only really at this point going to create inflammation and cause the arthritis to flare up. The next 6 months continued to be really frustrating. You know, especially at like 7, 8, 9, 10 months out, where I was expected to be kind of feeling stronger, I was still walking with a cane. And that sucked, you know, my options were really like experiencing intense arthritis and not really be able to walk that much, or walk with a cane. You know, especially for camera work, you need to have both of your hands available and free to carry stuff and use them. So trying to do camera work with a cane was just not happening. You know, hardly able to walk to the top of to the end of my block and back without it being like, oh God, I need to like sit down, you know? Yeah, walking was a big challenge.
Special brace that's coming in, and we're gonna do biking down to DC this coming weekend, so.
If it's relevant, yeah, most of my pain is in this front region here.
I mean, the worst of the fracture was right on the inside part of the talus, kind of right underneath there. The ankle joint is kind of the soft spot right here.
That's kind of where I feel the pain, yeah.
That makes perfect sense. That's kind of right where
There were a few options, a few things that I could try that my doctors had recommended, and the first thing that they recommended to try was a cortisone injection. Basically, an injection of this really strong anti-inflammatory steroid directly into the joint with kind of a big intense needle. They shoot this stuff into your joint. Some people get one injection and are good for years. Some people it lasts a few months. I went from having incredibly severe arthritis to having very little pain. The the ankle joint was still painful and so unbelievably stiff. So it wasn't like I was all of a sudden able to jog or anything, but I could basically live my life without chronic pain from the arthritis. I could walk around the house, I could walk up the block and back, started to walk more and more. My ankle got stronger because of the cortisone injection. I was using it more, right? The cortisone knocks out the inflammation, and I start using the ankle more, therefore the ankle gets stronger. So it felt really good, and it lasted me about 6 months. The first shot lasted about 6 months of relatively no arthritis, or little arthritis, I guess. Yeah, it was literally life-changing, the cortisone injection. I also started to find solutions, so I went and tried to get this crazy, ridiculous ankle brace that I thought was going to help me, and it didn't really help. The prosthetic designer gave me a little foam slip, and the brace didn't really help, but that little foam insert helped me a lot with my lack of dorsiflexion. I discovered that I absolutely cannot really walk barefoot, so I needed good house slippers with a big heel. I started wearing Crocs in the shower so I didn't slip as easy. Got hiking boots and, realized that I need to pretty much be wearing hiking boots all the time. So the combination of like my life adjustments and the cortisone was big and brought me back up to a place where I was feeling happy and relatively normal.
Had a mishap at the start, and
I've been walking around my neighborhood trying to interview people, and my foot does not feel great. Like, I've only gone maybe half a mile or so, and it's not terrible, but it's definitely there, there's definitely pain there. Yeah. So when people ask me how I'm doing today, I typically say, I'm doing great, but I have a bum foot. I kind of chalk it up to a bum foot. It's sort of like having a sprained ankle all the time. I can't really play tennis or basketball. I can't jog at all. I can't run for any amount of time because of the lack of dorsiflexion, but I can play pickleball. Like, there's not that much moving in pickleball, so I can play pickleball. I can rock climb. I can ride my bike. I can walk for the most part without difficulty. I can go around and make my videos, even carry like my backpack with some camera gear in it. Physically I'm doing fine. I don't feel frustrated or angry. I don't feel... Occasionally somebody will be like, oh, I'm training for a marathon, or I'm doing a triathlon tomorrow, or I'll just like see someone jogging who looks really good and I'll get jealous and a little frustrated. Yeah, I generally feel fine. I think part of that is because I've just accepted my new limitations, and I also think part of that is because of the help of the cortisone injection. There might be a time in the future where I am really frustrated by my limitations and by my foot. I think this is like a good peek into what's coming for all of us, right? I think I have this little glimpse of what it's like to get old and to have your body deteriorate. All of our bodies are going to crumble, and it's probably going to be slow and ugly and upsetting and just awful. And this ankle injury is a window into that. It's a wisdom accelerator. One of the things that just went right out the window was my desire to be cool. Not that I had a big desire to be cool before this, but I just care less what other people think of me. I don't dress as stylish anymore. I dress in clothes like I gotta wear my big clunky hiking boots all the time, so I just like I don't care what other people think of me as much. I care more about like having a good support system around me and having good friends. Yeah, and it's just a reminder that life is precious and life is so fragile, and the fact that I'm alive is a miracle, and that at any moment, this body could be taken away from me. Okay.